Hi, good day. So our lesson for today is House Bill number 6765 or Digital Economy Taxation Act. Our learning objectives would be number 1, to define who is covered under the digital economy. 2, differentiate the tax per different person category in the NIRC. And then 3, how to register business in the BIR. Okay, so what is now money online? Money online, this are pertains to money we had received from online shopping websites such as Lazada, Shopee, Amazon, and alike. So if we are selling our goods or products or services in this platform, then we are having our money online. Next, we also have from our video blogging from YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and alike. So when we are catering our professional activities in this particular platform and we earn money from that, then it is now considered as money online. So therefore, these are all subject to our digital economy taxation. So what is tax? Under Section 23 of the NIRC, the General Principle of Income Tax, except when otherwise provided in this code, so persons who are taxable are citizens of the Philippines residing herein is taxable in all income derived from all sources within or without the Philippines. So, for example, if you are a Filipino citizen, so by birth, or whether your parents are a Filipino citizen, then therefore you would be considered as a Filipino citizen. And if you are earning money here and abroad, either from YouTube and from compensation here in the Philippines or YouTube outside, or you are working as services outside except for OFW, your taxable, your money is taxable for all your incomes in the Philippines and outside the Philippines. So we also have the non-resident citizen. It's only taxable from the sources within the Philippines. So if you have a foreigner husband and he's doing some blogging here in the Philippines, and then all the income that he derived here in the Philippines would now be taxable under our income tax. Individual citizen of the Philippines who are working and deriving income from abroad as an overseas worker is taxable only from the income derived here in the Philippines. So if you are OFW and you are earning here in the Philippines through Lazada or YouTube or something, then your income from those platforms are taxable here in the Philippines. But you're earning abroad from your OFW activity, then these are not taxable. We also have an alien individual, whether a resident or not in the Philippines, taxable only for the income derived here in the Philippines. So those who are foreigner while residing here in the Philippines, but also have some earning outside the Philippines, the earning outside the Philippines is not taxable, but all the earnings here in the Philippines are also taxable. We also have the domestic corporation, is a taxable or all income derived from sources within or without the Philippines. So if you are doing some YouTube and you are a conglomerate of people and you establish a corporation so that you will be able to have more viewers and more concepts, then if you are earning here in the Philippines and outside the Philippines, all your income are also taxable. But if you are a foreign corporation, and so therefore you're only taxable here in the Philippines. Okay? So individual per income category under NRAC. So we have different individual. Those employee deriving purely compensation income, whether from single or several employee during the calendar year. So if you are an employee and deriving only from compensation or you don't have any YouTube platform, then you are taxable as an individual. Okay, if you have several employee, then you still have to file 1701 or 1700 in consolidated form. If you are a self-employed individual receiving income from the conduct of business, trade, or profession, so if you are, for example, you are earning through YouTube, then you could be considered a self-employed individual. Okay, because you are catering your services and activity to YouTube, you are selling your craft or your different activities or the different concepts that you are developing to the people in forms of digital form. So you will now be taxable as self-employed. Individual deriving from compensation income and from the conduct of business. So a lot of YouTubers are under this category. Why? Because they are earning from their respective employers under the compensation income, and then you are also conducting your trade or business or practice of profession by having your content, and then the viewer and some by the viewer and through the YouTube platform, wherein some advertiser would advertise their product on your channel. So you are now considered as a mixed income earner. Individual deriving other business taxes or business, non-professional related income in additional to compensation not otherwise. These are now subject to final tax. But for us, we would focus in individual deriving mixed income, compensation income, and conduct of business or trade, because a lot of YouTuber, I guess, would fall under this category. Unless otherwise they are already earning millions, then they would probably be retiring from their respective company and would now be considered a self-employed individual receiving income from trade and profession. But take note, our compensation income are usually pre-computed by our employer. Hence, there is also withholding tax for that particular one. So, we would now only focus for our category under the taxes pertaining to our YouTube channels. So, under Revenue Memorandum Circular 60/2020, so this RMC took effect on June 1, 2020, aimed to cover online seller, merchant, and other stakeholder in the Philippines that involve a digital transaction such as payment, gateway, delivery channel, internet service provider, and other facilitator. So meaning all YouTuber are under this RMC, as well as those who are selling through Facebook, Lazada, or any other digital platform such as Amazon. So if you are earning or income from this channel or through selling a particular product on this platform, then you will be covered under RMC 60/2020. Next, so registration for individual. So how do we register, since most of the people from YouTuber are not aware that they are covered by the tax? But here in the Philippines, taxation apply to all income, whether legal or illegal. Okay? So for us, if you are not yet registered with the BIR, number one, if you are an individual entity, so then you need either birth certificate or passport so that the Philippine government or the bureau will be able to identify who are you. Then you need to have a mayor permit, which we would have a video coverage different from this one because there are different requirements. Then we also have the DTI registration. I would also cover that on other video. But DTI registration, you could use that online. But I wanted to emphasize on other video that there are certain period so that you would not be incur any penalties. Okay? Next, you also have to register it or fill up 0605 or the registration form. And then you have to pay 500 for this one. It's annually. You need to pay annual 500 every January of the year. Okay? Before the January of the year. Because if you file after January 30, then the BIR will be penalizing you. Unless otherwise, there are circular allowing you for the extend payment. Just like what happened in this pandemic. Next, and then other documents that you need. If you are listing, you need to have the lease contract so that the government would ask you also to file for the lease, and then you will be able to deduct your rental expenses. But sometimes you also need to withhold 5% for all the lease contract. Then if you are a franchise, then you could put out also a franchise document or a barangay certificate for micro business enterprise. I don't think if we are being part of this micro business, because micro business are small businesses that would allow people to have some certain exemptions with the bureau. But I'll give you some other topic for that one so that we will be aware. So taxation. So what do we file as YouTuber or digital seller? So number one is the registration fee. This is covered by our 0605, and we need to pay 500 annually, and we need to pay that annual every January because the January or December, but remember that the deadline is on January 30 of the taxable year. So for this year, for example, you should have already paid that on January 2020. For next year, then you could pay it right now until January 30 to avoid any penalty. So we also have the business tax. So under the business tax, we have value-added tax and percentage tax. But what's the advantage of value-added tax? Value-added tax, these are indirect because you could also claim all your batable purchases. So for example, if you are a YouTuber, you buy some crap like your cell phone, your laptop, then you could claim that under the value-added tax. But normally, value-added tax are applied unless you opt to be one of those people who are applying for the value-added tax. It should have an earning of 3 million or more. But you can opt to be a batable person. Then if you were not able to reach the 3 million period, then you could still have the options of percentage tax. This is 3%. But this is from gross, no deduction. So meaning any purchases that you do cannot be deducted under your percentage tax. That's why it was called direct tax. Because the person who is applying for that would now be imposed by 3%. Okay? And then you also have the currently passed optional 8% tax. The optional 8% would now include your business tax and your income tax. Okay? So you don't need to file for both. But under VAT or value-added tax and percentage tax, you still need to file an individual income tax. So individual income tax is subject to tax table, which we have previously discussed in our video under income taxations. Then if you are a corporation, you are subject to 30 to 20% of your net taxable income. But we wouldn't be discussing this. Probably I'll discuss this on other video because you would only be focusing on individual entity. Then you also have withholding. Like for example, if you do renting or rental, then you need to withhold 5% from all your rentals so that you would be able to claim that as a deduction under your value-added tax and your income tax or your income taxable for the year. Because under percentage, it's not allowed. Under optional, it's not allowed because the 8% is subject to its gross amount. Okay? So let's see. So we have two kinds of income. We have the active income. Active income refer to the one where we are performing our services. This include wage, tip, salaries, commission, income from business, and other material participation. So these are what we call now the active income. The income tax. And then you also have for the taxes subject for this one would now be income tax and then the business tax because business tax is subject to your right or privilege to practice business here in the Philippines. Okay? So what are now our business deductions? Since we already know that all our sales or all the income that we have is subject to tax, then there are also some itemized deduction for the taxes. So number one is the itemized deduction. These are ordinary or necessary to the business, trade, or profession. So for us, YouTuber, usually our itemized deduction would include our internets, our computer, our headsets, and all other things that are needed so that we would be able to do our content and then publish it in our YouTube channels. Then these are now what we call the cost of sales or cost of services for us because we usually sell services. Next, we also have the interest. The interest income, or if we loan so that we will be able to buy our laptop or our gadget, then there would be some interest. It could be deducted under our itemized deduction. However, there is a set limit under our National Internal Revenue Code that reduces 33% of interest income. Okay, so meaning we could only deduct interest up to its 33% from its income interest. Then we also have the representations. So the representation is when we eat out together with other people so that we would be able to cater our content or our business. But take note, there are also saturation. If you are a seller of goods, like for example, you are into Lazada selling your different products, then you could only claim representation up to 5% of your net sales. And we know that net sales is gross sales less sales return and allowances, and sales discount. So net that, we only can claim 5%. Because if it's more than 5% and you are be able to audit it by the BIR, then that would be disallowed. So you need to pay other tax for that one. If you are a seller of services, just like us, YouTuber, who provide content and do our services in our various knowledge on certain, then we are allowed up to 1% of our gross receipts. So if our income only pertain to our YouTube channel, then 1% of what we receive from the YouTube could now be charged as our representation, or our, when we eat outside and then there are some receipts for that, we could claim that under our itemized deduction. Okay. Next, we also have taxes and license. So taxes and license don't have any saturations. Then we have utilities expense. So these are our internet, our lights or Meralco bill, our water, because we need that so that, and then our things that are needed or essential to make the facilities clean. Next, we also have some losses because sometimes we incur a lot of income but we don't have a lot of expenses but we don't have income. So that would be discussed on our video because usually these are our losses from the previous year which we could also claim as our deductions. Next, we also have depreciation, amortization, and alike. So for example, if we bought computer and the computer are usually usable for only 5 years or more, then you could depreciate that and then deduct it as our under itemized deductions. Okay? Then we have charitable contribution or donation because a lot of YouTuber would do some good deeds to other people. So under this, you could have the receipts and then claim that under our itemized deduction. However, there is also ceiling. So for individual, it's only 10% of our taxable income. So if you do some volunteer to the churches or some tithes, then you have to ask receipts so you could claim that under our itemized deduction. If you are corporation, it's only allowed out to 5% of your income tax. Next, we also have, if you don't want to do this itemized because it's quite tedious, because there are some ceiling, you need to prepare all the receipts, then you could also use the optional standard deduction. And optional standard deduction are usually allowed up to 40% of your gross sales or gross receipts. Okay? So, meaning, it's deducted from gross. So, you are not allowed to deduct cost of sales. Okay? Next, so we have the 8%. So, most YouTuber probably would opt to use the 8% because it's less taxing because you didn't need to compute for all the ORs that you had bought or buy or anything that are necessary. You only need to know what is your gross sales and receipts. And you only filing one tax, which is the 8%. You're not anymore asked to file your percentage tax and income tax because for this one, there's only one filing. And this is under RMC 23, 2017. So that if you didn't so much understand, you could refer and check out the standards or the memorandum. Next, so any self-employed individual whose gross sales receipts or for the year does not exceed 3 million can avail 8% income tax rate. But take note, if you exceed 3 million, then you are now vatable. You cannot use the 8% income tax. Okay? So it's only applicable to 8% of your income tax. So how to avail? So for new registrant, you could just fill up BIR form 1901. And when you avail, it become irrevocable for the current year. So meaning, if you use 8% for this year, you are already 8% for the entire year. You could avail on other year, but you have to go to the BIR and inform them that you are not anymore availing the 8%. Next, if you are existing business, then you need to file Form 1905-1. But once you avail it, you become irrevocable again for the current year. You also need to file if you are a percentage tax or percentage or what do you call this? VAT. But you didn't exceed the 3 million, you had to file 25510Q. But probably you could put 0 or you could go to BIR to amend it by 1905 so that you would be 8%. Because sometimes if you forgot to file this one, the other form for the business or the percentage tax, and it was still written in your certificate of registration, you could be penalized 1,000 for each non-filing. So I would suggest that it would be better that you just fill up BIR form 1905 and then let the COR be corrected that you are not anymore needed to file 2551 or 2550Q. Instead, you are only allowed to file 1701Q under 8% ITR. Next, how to avail the 3% if you don't want to have the 8%. So, number one, for a new registrant, you need also to file 1901 and the necessary attachment and the necessary requirement of the BIR, which we previously discussed, the birth certificate, the form, the 0605, the lease contract. If you have, then you have to put that under your 1901. For existing business, it would be 1905. Then you have to avail, and then it's still irrevocable. So for percentage, you have 2551Q because this is now quarterly, and 3% for every income that you had received. Plus an additional at the end of the year or for the quarter, if you want, you could also file 1701Q. For BAT, same. You have 1901 and then all the attachment required. And then the existing business, 1905, and then you have to file 2550M, which is for monthly, and then every quarter you need to consolidate it so that you would have a quarter at 2550Q. And then also 1701 or 1702, depending on if you are individual, it's 1701. If you are a corporation, 1702. So these are for the ITR. And then the BRR 2550 would be for your BAT or business tax. Okay? So example, Mr. Huyos is a freelancer blogger, own a YouTube channel catering about new software application development and earn 100,000 a month. The total income for the year was 2 million. Compute for the tax using 3% and ITR. So, for the first quarter, since it's only 100 a month, then you would have 300,000 times 3%, 9,000. Then you need to fill up your 25501. For income tax, please check or refer to our previous video under income tax on YouTuber so that you would be able to compute for the 2 million. Okay? So, these are subject now for our tax table under this one. So, since it's 2 million, it would be above 800 to 2 million. Okay? So, what if the YouTuber want it VATable? So, for VATable, it's 1.2. For example, you only earn 1.2. Then that would now be 12%. So, 24,000. But take note, you could claim input tax. Example, if you bought by your computer at 100,000, then you could get the 12% of it. If it's VATable, you could check out the receipt and you would be able to see the VAT. If that's the case, then you could claim that under your input tax. So the 24,000 is not exactly the 24,000 you need to pay. You need to deduct all your purchases that is VATable so that you would need to pay the government lesser amount. Then for the taxable income for the year, it's also just the same. You need the tax table. This one. And then please refer to our previous video, which is the link below, so that you would be able to know how to compute. Okay? Guys, for 8%, it's just 8%. If you like this video, please help me reach out more people by hitting the subscribe button. God bless you. Keep safe. And if you have questions, just comment below. Bye and have a good day.